Hey there, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show with Sasha and Ish. Alright, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show, the podcast for leadership and career development, and today we are talking about learning. How do we accelerate your learning tips, tricks and techniques to turn you into a content consuming machine? Plus all the normal banter, well, not that normal, we do a few accents.
Some subtitles. Now I sound like Sean Connery. Yeah, let's get some subtitles.
And I finally figure out what the button does. Did you see that?
The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
I just wondered what that button did. Sorry.
Yeah, well, now we know. It says you got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 before your... It's like a consent for your photo to be taken. Can you get rid of it?
No, it's gone.
I've still got it.
Oh, have you? Oh, just click on your screen.
Or maybe I have to do something. For once, I have to do something on this podcast.
Anyway, that's the show. Let's get it. Okay, good. I'm not going to record you eating.
I know. I'm going to think that,
All right, welcome to Not So Breakfast Show today, and this is the one about accelerating your learning ability. You didn't expect sound effects like that today, did you, Sash?
Well, have you just learnt that? Have you gone to learn to do your own sound effects course?
Yeah, I downloaded an audio course, and that was my skill I mastered.
Amazing. What do you reckon?
Was that your beatboxing?
Yeah.
Or was that falling down the stairs?
Both. Beatboxing while falling down the stairs.
What a skill that you have mastered. Brilliant. Well, today we're talking about accelerating your ability to learn. So not just going, I'm going to learn something, but how do we learn it quickly? How do we put ourselves in the right headspace, position, whatever it is, to be able to learn skills and information at speed? And I'm looking forward to this session today, Sash, because I love learning stuff fast.
Yeah, I love learning stuff, and it turns out that learning stuff fast is useful. And I also think just understanding how you learn is really helpful. I think often we want to learn something new, whether it's a new skill, a new sport, a new language, a new hobby, and we don't really know how to go about it, and we make it much harder for ourselves than it actually needs to be.
And probably at the moment in history, it is probably the time that you can learn the most stuff as fast as possible, because information is everywhere, and not just information, but variation of that information. So if you're not learning it very well from one person, you can find someone else. You can find something that applies to your maybe learning style, rather than the way it used to be in the old days, where it's like find a teacher and then hope you connected and maybe you learnt some stuff.
Well, I think when it comes to facts, it's never been easier to know facts because you just look them up.
That's a fact.
It's a fact. You can just look them up. I also think it's never been easier to learn skills because, like you say, there's so many multi-channels you can learn from. You can get a manual, download it. You can get it from the library. You can go to YouTube and watch a YouTube clip. You can go to Khan Academy. All of the world's best universities run courses. People are now making their living out of trying to teach you stuff on a much bigger scale than has ever happened before. And sometimes I think that range of choice can actually just lead to paralysis. It's just overwhelming. It feels too easy. And so without the right amount of hard, I don't think we learn either. So we all sign up for Duolingo because we want to improve our French, but we don't follow through on it. So it'd be really useful to talk about how do you understand your own learning and how can you get really good at learning things deeply but also quickly.
I remember when you said about the library, I remember when I was younger, I wanted to get really good at skateboarding. And so I had my skateboard. And then I was like, well, how do I learn the tricks? Because first of all, it's like, what are the tricks you can do on the skateboard? And I could only find books from like the early 70s on skateboarding. Yeah. It was the weirdest skills and weirdest tricks, and none of them were helpful. And trying to explain how to do a skateboard trick with a few pictures and written text just wasn't cutting it. So then I had to go down to the skate park, pretend I was cool enough to hang with those kids, but just kind of watch what they do and then hope that someone would actually kind of try and break that skill down for me. But as you said now, do you know the last time I skateboarded actually, I was a little bit older, and I got a longboard because I thought, hey, that'd be cool. And I skated down a car park building, and that was good. And then went home, and I was doing a bit of skateboarding, and then I fell off. And then I had to go in and tell my wife, Jade, that I fell off my skateboard, and that was the last time I did that.
I just think you have an obligation to the taxpayer who presumably has had something to do with putting your new hips in.
It was pre-hips.
That's what meant that you needed new hips. Bloody skateboarding. I actually read this really cool blog the other day from my friend Cole Fink in Australia, and he was talking about who you should learn things from. And I loved this because I think it's really true that you shouldn't learn from people who are experts because things come easy to them. You should learn from people who have had to learn how to do the skill out of not a natural ability, but out of a desire to learn it. So I've always said, if you want to learn to be a rock star, you're not going to go to Bono and say, so Bono, how do I be a rock star? Because he doesn't know. He's just doing what he does. It just comes naturally to him. You're much better to go to someone who's really had to work at it because they understand and can break down what are the steps for a rookie with no particular talent to get good at the thing. They're much more likely to have a systematic approach. You ask the world's most amazing authors or novelists or writers, how do you do it? And they'll spin some yarn. If you want to be just a really competent writer, you should go to a writing course or access some information about writing from someone who's actually battled with it, who's found it hard.
Yeah. And I think if you're wanting to learn something as well, it's important to put a why around it. Like, why do you want to learn the skill? Because...
Why did you want to learn skateboarding, Ash?
Because skateboarding's cool, man. And all those kids are really cool. And I thought skateboarding would be it. But skateboarding is painful. To be honest.
Let me rephrase it. Why in your mid-40s did you want to relearn skateboarding?
Because I thought I could relive my youth. But
it's cheaper than buying a convertible, right? Just get a skateboard.
Totally. And it was such a stupid thing to do because, it wasn't like I didn't have the money to buy the skateboard. So I just went out and brought the skateboard and just thought, I'll just get back into it. But I didn't really want it. It was just something I wanted to try out. And as soon as it was painful and I fell off again, I was like, I'm too old for this. So it is important to maybe wrap it around a why. Like, why do you want to learn it? Because it will get painful or hard at some point. You want to be able to push through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I reckon there's 7 steps that are really useful if you want to accelerate your learning. And the first one is just to have some self-awareness. And I really love what you're saying about thinking about the why. Why do you want to learn this? Is it realistic? Is it something that's going to bring you joy? Is it going to enhance your career? Is it something that's been niggling away at you and it feels like unfinished business? Maybe like most adults started to learn a musical instrument when they were a kid and because their parents were rubbish, they let them quit. No, that's where parents went wrong. Never let your kids quit the musical instrument. Make them finish. But as adults, we have this unfinished business where we go, I never really mastered the guitar, or I never got past grade 1 on the piano. Sometimes that unfinished business just needs to stay unfinished, and that's okay. Other times you go, no, I really want to finish that. I want to master that. If it brings you joy, then I think that's a really key reason. And if it's going to help you in your career, then I think those are good reasons to do things. Pick whatever reason you like, but just know what your reason is, because that's what's going to get you through when you fall over. That why and that reason will help you push through when it gets hard. And
that might be with that self-awareness thing. If it's just, I want to do it because I've seen this person do it and they were really cool. That may not be a good reason, have some awareness around that. Like, I actually tried to learn the harmonica when I was younger because I saw a guy playing harmonica in a blues band and he got up there and I was like, that's amazing. And so I went and brought one and I practiced and I practiced and practiced, but I didn't really want to do it. So I didn't have the stickability there. It was just, that would be cool. Maybe I should have picked something I was good at and just doubled down on that.
Yeah, and even what the self-awareness does is that if it's a new thing that you have to learn for work, so say you're teaching yourself to use a new piece of software, if you know it's something that you have to do, then you can just go easy on yourself when it's hard and boring and go, this is hard and boring, but I have to do it, so I'm going to persevere. And don't beat yourself up that you're not loving every minute of it. just have the awareness to recognize why you want to do it and recognize what might get in the way.
All right, so that's number one, self-awareness. What's number two, Sash?
The second thing is to understand how you most like to learn. So there's lots of different intelligences. There's lots of different learning styles that research sort of identifies. Are you a visual learner? You learn by seeing things. Do you like to read a set of instructions? Do you like to listen to a set of instructions? Can you learn things theoretically, or do you have to be hands-on? Are you a kinesthetic type learner? And most of us are a combination of those things. But if, for example, you can learn by listening, then you've got a whole range of things you can do. It's audiobooks, it's podcasts, it's listening to lectures. But if you learn by watching, then you need to get videos or go to a course. I mean, I know for me, my own learning, I absolutely flourish and thrive when I'm in a community of learners. So usually that means in a classroom or on a call where you can see other people and you can ask questions, it's interactive and you can test your ideas. So I know that I'm much better when there's a two-way communication channel. Other people go, oh, I don't want to be with others. I very much want to learn on my own. So if you recognize that, then you can pick the mode that you get taught by because you know what's good. So if you don't know, just try something.
Yeah.
Read a book and recognize whether any of it sticks or if you find it hard going compared to audio. And I know you've got some tips for audio listening because you're a big audio dude.
Yeah. I mean, audio is definitely my predominant learning style. Like that's how I can consume content, I can recall content, and I can just immerse myself in it. And it's partly because I can also be doing something else, so I can be a little bit distracted, but I can still concentrate on that. But one of the things that you can do if you are really good at audio is you can also increase the speed of your listening of that audio. So in a podcast, you can listen to it at 1.5 times or 2 times the speed, which means you can get through the content much quicker. You can do this on YouTube as well, but you can actually view or listen to the content at a higher speed and just absorb it. And that way, it's not taking you as long to get through the content. You can consume more content. If that's one of your predominant learning styles and you really excel in that, then that is a useful tip.
Yeah, and the reverse, I love that. But the reverse is also true. So I've had a little bit of trouble sleeping lately, and I've been listening to audiobooks at night. But at their regular pace, there's still a bit much going on in the audiobook, and they're reading it to you like this, and I'm going, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah. So I've slowed it down, and I've started listening to my audiobooks at 0.8 or 0.9. Yeah. And now the voice is more like this. Yeah. And that helps me sleep. So fascinating thing, when my son Tiger was at university, back before he dropped out, yay, shout out to all the university dropouts, man. There's life beyond finishing, apparently. He was just listening to the lectures, so like watching them online. Yeah. This was during COVID. They didn't have to go to class and couldn't go to class. And he found it really useful to listen to it slightly sped up. And then every time he didn't quite understand what they were saying, just pause, rewind, listen to it again. And that's the beauty of asynchronous learning. So you're not in the room or you're not listening live. You get to control the pauses, the stops, the speed. And I think that's a radical accelerator for someone's learning, is that you can pace in a way that suits you.
And that pace can also be related to if it was a group environment versus like a one-on-one mentoring environment. Because if it's a one-on-one coaching mentoring environment, I can say, stop, can you say that again? But maybe I don't have the confidence to say that in a group environment. So that's almost like the live version of pause and rewind.
Completely. And not everybody has the luxury of saying, well, money's no object, I'll get a private tutor. But even recognizing what level of feedback you want and when you want your feedback is part of understanding your style. So let's say you're learning how to write reports because you've been asked to do that in your job and you're finding it really difficult. So you go to an online course, learn to write a report. Recognize whether you're the kind of person that wants to finish a report and then get some feedback on it? Or are you the type of person that wants to write a paragraph and get some feedback on the paragraph before you keep going? I know for me, when I'm preparing speeches or talks, I don't often say to people, what do you think of my intro? How's this middle bit? Because I feel like the whole thing is a contextual work. So the middle only makes sense if you've heard the beginning only makes sense if you know what's coming. But that's not true for everybody. So work out how you like to get your feedback and ask for the feedback and coaching at a time that suits you. Okay, number 3 is to know your time. And it feels like, we've just been talking about time. No, we've been talking about style and speed. Time is recognizing when during your day or your week you are most optimally ready to learn. When do you have the brain power and capacity to take on new information? So I love it. She used to tell a story about driving to work and, it's perfect time for stuff, but quite a different approach depending on whether you're going to work or coming home from work. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, so when I'm going to work, because I'm kind of, I guess, not a morning person like a hello, but I'm really good at learning in the morning and doing more complex tasks in the morning. So part of my routine is to listen to podcasts and listen to audiobooks in the morning, and it kind of switches my brain on and I feel like I've learned something. And interestingly enough, I often find that whatever you've consumed during the day sometimes becomes useful at some point during the day. However, when I go home, it's about switching off. So I listen to lighter material, maybe the radio, maybe a podcast. One of my favorite podcasts to switch off to is No Such Thing as a Fish. And it's just comedians talking about random facts. And it's just chewing gum for my brain at the end of the day. It just allows me to kind of be distracted from my thoughts, start switching off from work, maybe enjoying what I'm listening to as opposed to maybe more wanting to get something out of what I'm listening to.
That is so great. I'm almost the complete opposite. So when I get up in the morning, I feel like I wouldn't be able to concentrate on learning because I've got stuff I've got to get done before my brain is free to learn. So I need to knock a few things out, and then it's probably later in the evening once I've kind of attended to the day that I go, now I might just read an article or have a look at a video. And I also know that for timing for me, I have to chunk stuff.
Yeah.
So what the academic research tells us is that the best environment for learning is acceleration and immersion. So it's where you go faster than you think you're capable of, and also that you are fully immersed in it. So I'm much better to go and do a 1-day training of some description or a 3-week program, for example, than I am to do an hour a day or 2 hours a week. Because I find that I want to go deep in something, want to go fast and far and deep and acquire it as much as I can and then put it into practice. Not everything works like that, but I think recognizing that is really helpful.
And I'm sometimes the opposite of that. So I'm more likely to chunk the smaller amounts of time and have the focus. So it might be a focus over a month where I want to improve my ability to edit video on an iPhone. And so then I'll put little mini blocks aside to just focus on certain aspects. And I might even plan out exactly what those blocks are. And then I'll use the accumulated time. So it might be I'm doing the equivalent of a 1 day, but I'm giving myself that mental break that I need so I can go full into it, learn a skill, and then come out and maybe practically apply it.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-Minute Presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-Minute Presenter program.
So that is step 4, immersion. If you want to learn French, then whether you're going to chunk it like me and do it over like a block course of 2 weeks, or chunk it like Ish and do lots of little blocks, the idea is also in other areas of your life to try and involve the skill that you are trying to learn. So it might be that you switch to watching your Netflix shows in French with English subtitles. So subtitles. Now I sound like Sean Connery. Yeah, let's get some subtitles. Subtitles. That's just one kind of stupid example, but you get how that works. If you are learning a new skill that requires some hand-eye coordination, like tennis or golf, there's things that you can do while you're watching TV or while you're walking to work that are not tennis and golf, but they do improve your hand-eye. So small things that you can do. So you're looking to build not just the skill in the moment when you're learning it, but also continuing to learn more about it.
Great. I love that. And the immersion stuff as well, sometimes can put you under a little bit more pressure. And sometimes that pressure can help accelerate you from a learning perspective, as long as you don't panic, freak out, and like, I'm out. But like if you want to learn the skill of public speaking, get yourself a public speaking gig, like immerse yourself in it as opposed to dancing around the outside. Because I know that the more time you get to be on stage, whether it's big stage, small stage, it actually accelerates you as opposed to just learning about it, but not actually applying it in an immersive situation.
So much. You remember taking your kids to swimming lessons? Yeah. They did not go into a classroom where the instructor said, now I'm going to teach you the principles of swimming, and now I'm going to show you how to do breaststroke, and here's how you hold your nose. And you just get in the water with your toddler and you all get wet. Yeah. And I think that's a really useful metaphor to hold on to about immersion. Say, are you learning about this thing in theory, but not actually getting wet? Because your learning massively accelerates when you are actually doing the thing.
All right, so what's our next one, Sash?
Well, number 5 is repetition. So you've got to practice and do the thing over and over and over again until it starts to feel like it's natural to you. As many times as you can. My biggest observation of all the teaching I've done throughout my entire life is that people give up too soon.
Yeah.
They pull out too early and decide it's not for them, when really they were just about to get over the hump and stuff was going to start to get easier.
And it's really hard to get good at something when you actually only have to do that thing once or twice a year. So being able to even create artificial repetition where you're practicing something, and I'll use the example of public speaking again. It's one of those things that you can still be practicing public speaking by delivering out loud, by standing up, by practicing to your PowerPoint, by doing all that kind of stuff. So the skill is getting embedded. So when you're doing it live, it becomes much easier. You and I got good at running modules and facilitating because we were just doing it every single week. And so sometimes when people come in and go, oh, well, I want to learn the skill, it's like, well, we can teach you the skill, but actually, where are you going to get your repetition from? Because if it's once a year when you're going to run that brainstorming meeting, it's, you're just not going to have enough repetition and volume.
Do not start to learn a sport at the end of the season. Learn it in the off season to get ready to go hard once that season starts.
Nice. So that was number 5. What's number 6, Sash?
Yeah, so we're talking about learning and how can you learn quickly, how can you learn deliberately, keep your brain fresh and from decaying so you don't get early onset Alzheimer's. I mean, this is all good quality stuff, kids. Number 6 is about building habits. Habits around setting regular time aside to learn and regular time aside to practice, so that these things just become habituated in your body and you no longer have to think about them. So I think it's really useful if you lead a team or you lead a family or you're part of a team or part of a family, is to think about what habits you could put in place that encourages everybody to keep learning. So is it that at one of your weekly stand-ups or your monthly stand-ups, you do a check-in on what people are learning, what the lessons have been from the last month? And that's not just like the reflective lessons. We're asking for what are the skills or the activities, the behaviors, what are people learning deliberately because they've set out to learn it. So I want to learn about how to take notes in a meeting. I want to learn about set up that kind of learning culture in your families and in your workplaces so that people start talking about what they're learning and sharing that knowledge.
Love it, Sash.
Well, the very last one is one of the fastest ways to learn something is to prepare to teach it. So, Covey talks about this 3-person teach where I get taught, then you teach someone else and they teach someone else. And that's how you know that the loop is closed and everybody really understands the concepts. Because if you think you understand something, wait until you try and explain it to someone else, because that will really show up the gaps in your knowledge. Challenge yourself to say, have I learnt this with enough kind of rigor that I can now explain it to another person? That's the way that you know whether it's got in or not.
And if you do explain it to someone and then get them to explain it back to you what they think you said, sometimes you're like, wait, that's not what I meant. And then you can kind of revisit it. Do you actually understand it enough to explain it to somebody else?
Completely. And don't underestimate the extent of your own knowledge that you've picked up over time that can be useful to share with others.
All right, so should we quickly recap through those 7? So number 1 was self-awareness.
Just check in. Why do you want to learn this? What's the point? What's the reason? Is it work? Is it personal? Does it bring you joy? Is it for a bad juju reason? Like your nemesis knows how to do it and you want to learn judo too so that you can meet them at the World Judo Championships and then fight them to the death. Okay, but that might not be the motivation that really keeps you going.
Number 2 was know your style. What sort of learner are you? Because if you know your style, then you can maximize your potential in learning space.
And everybody has style. Everybody has a learning style. So
especially Harry Styles.
Have fun. Oh, no, I'll tell you later.
Okay. Number 3, know your time.
Yeah, work out when is the best time of the day for you. When is your energy right? When are you most receptive to learning? Number 4, immersion. Number 5, repetition. So get really immersed in it and then practice. Repeat it over and over again until your French is just amazing and you say la fenêtre instead of window and people are blown away.
Number 6 is habits. Put some habits in place that really help embed the learning in. And then number 7, share the love.
Teach it to someone else.
That's it. Let's see how much you really know and how well it's been embedded in you. Good chat, Sash. I love it. Those are some helpful learning techniques and tips.
And I learned something really cool this week. And it's how you can determine which generation a person belongs to. Are they X, Y, millennial, boomer? And you just say a name to them and you ask them to finish the name. So let me try it with you, Ish.
Okay.
Harry
Styles.
Right. Okay. So Harry Styles. I think that means you're a millennial. I think Gen Zs say Potter.
Oh, yeah.
I think boomers say what I said, which was Debbie Harry. She was Blondie. Yeah. So it's like Harry Potter, Harry Styles. Prince Harry, like what Harry springs to mind for you, that shows which generation you are.
Harry McClary from...
yeah. Harry McClary from Donaldson's Dairy.
Okay, what about... Okay, let's do that again. Debbie.
Dorday.
Does Dallas.
I was going to say Debbie Does Dallas.
I knew you were going to say Does Dallas. Oh, that's a good game. Richard.
Preble. He's like an old politician. Richard Marx. I will be here waiting for you. Oh, good song.
Good song. All right, one more then. Jane.
Austin.
Ooh,
I think that tells you a bit about your like what you're into. Like if I said Jane to you, what are you going to say? Tarzan. Movies, books. This is okay. Yeah, good. We've cracked it. This is it. This is our new thing.
This is the
Everything
game.
You need to know about a person by saying like a word association thing. Oh, you have played Articulate, right?
Yes.
Articulate, best game in the whole entire world, where I say a word to try and get you to say another word. We've just bought the Australasian, New Zealand version to play over Christmas, so we can't wait. We have the most wet your pants sessions in our family playing this game because we're all so different in terms of the way that we express ourselves, or in the case of some of us in our family, don't really express ourselves, just go into a silent panic.